All right, I believe we are recording. So I'm doing something a little bit new with this video. I'm attempting to use Zoom as a recording device so that I can screen share so that this video is actually a little bit easier to understand as I go through some of the different talking points. So continuing on with our November nutrition series, I wanted to cover your calories and your macros and kind of how to figure it out for yourself and then how you might want to divide it up. And again, this is just going to be a very vague general talk about your calories and your macros. So without further ado, let me screen share. So I'll get this up. Okay, so if this video works right, what you're seeing now is a calorie calculator. This is roughly where you want to start on the bottom tier. There's a couple of different ones. You've got Mayo Clinic, you've just got Calorie.net. Most of them are going to be in the ballpark within 1 to 200 calories of each other. So let's actually just go through a rough profile for me. So let's say it's close enough to my birthday, so I can say I'm 27. I'd like to say I'm 6'2", but we'll say I'm 6'1" just for accuracy's sake. I don't remember exactly what I weigh, but we're going to say 240. Again, that's probably close. Now here is where things get a little bit interesting. So the way that they break it up, and most of them will have an asterisk on what they mean by different activity levels. So the BMI, or basal metabolic rate, is what your body needs to sustain itself. So it's the calories you would burn if you did nothing. And I mean just it's what's required for your brain function, your heart function, and the necessary processes your body needs to survive. Sedentary, it kind of states it. If you're just couch potato, that's what you would click. Now, for me, if I remember how this calculator is, I'm between the active and very active categories. And you basically just click calculate. Again, it's not super personal where it's not getting into the details where it's like, oh, you are doing this exact activity and then therefore you should do this and that. This is just general, what most people can just do off the internet. And what I like about this is it kind of breaks it up as far as, hey, I'm happy with my weight, which means at the activity level I'm doing, approximately I need 3,200 calories a day. If I want mild weight loss, which if you notice here, they have at half a pound a week. So for some people, it's like, man, that's super slow. It's actually fairly quick if you look in the grand scheme of things. It puts me at 3,000 calories. So it's just a 200 calorie difference. That's a Cliff Bar from home. I just eat one less Cliff Bar a day. Standard weight loss at 1 pound a week, it's got me at almost 2,800. And extreme, notice for me, people say, the nutrition label, it's 2,000 calories a day. According to just this website, that's under extreme weight loss, as if I follow the average 2,000 a day. So they've got different ones over here, BMI, body fat, different things that you want to play with. But again, that's for future videos. And as far as BMI, why personally I dislike BMI, you actually find that body fat percentages, hip waist ratios, measurements of visceral fat and lean body mass indexes are much more accurate when it comes to describing your overall health as it means to your weight and height. Because for me, in my weight class right now, 240 at 6'1" is midline obese. But again, that's BMI. That I don't want to jump off on a tangent here. So I just have the calorie calculator over here because again, I just click there active and it's got me at pretty close. It's under weight loss. So again, they're relatively close with each other. So you can go to the Mayo Clinic, just caloriecalculator.net. And different ways to play with activity levels. So if it's one of those, well, I'm kind of borderline, just go back, click both, figure out where you want to stand. But that's the overall calorie talk, what you should take in because of what you are outputting. Now, before I get too deep into the woods, there is going to be a separate talk on how, well, yes, it is calories in must be equal to or less than calories out if you want to lose weight. Not all calories are equal. So even though in the previous talks I said, if you eat a carb, it's 4 calories per gram, even if that's true amongst most carbs, not all carbs are created equal, just like not all fats are created equal, or just like not all proteins are created equal. It's kind of one of those things, if you understand the basic principles, then you can kind of decide one way or the other if, if you apply it, does it make sense? So like for me, again, this deserves a video all on its own, but 500 calories of McDonald's cheeseburger does not equal 500 calories of McDonald's fries, does not equal 500 calories of mom's home cooked mashed potatoes, does not equal 500 calories of a T-bone steak. Even though they're all equal, it's different amounts, and then those different amounts do different things in your system as it's ingested. So again, as we go forward with this talk, just keep that in mind. Right now, we are talking about calories without their implication as to where they're coming from. Now, segueing, it's just MyFitnessPal. I believe it's Under Armour's thing. There's a bunch of calorie calculators and macro calculators out here. This is taking it up that next tier. So now that you know, for me, let's say I want to do weight loss. We'll just set it at 2,800 calories in the app here. So 2,800 calories, you see it already auto-generated my macros. Now, your macros are what I was talking about before, your carbs, your fats, and your proteins. And you notice here the percentages. So this is where people like either pie charts, bars, or for some people, this is okay. As far as figuring out, this is starting to figure out where you should get your calorie sources from. And then once you figure out where to get your calorie sources from in the form of macros, that's where you start building a meal plan around it. So carbs in and of themselves, for me personally, I don't like overdoing them. So let's see here. I want to, yeah, you know what? This is for brevity's sake. This is just for humor's sake. So let's say, okay, that's a little high for me. Let's drop this down to 30%. And you notice here, we're not at my calorie intake here, so we have to shift the total percentages around to get 100. Makes sense. So let's bump carbs up a little bit. And you know what? That's fine. We'll just work with this example. So if we go by 100% right here on my screen, right there, that's all my calories in a day, which I set at 2,800. So it's got it divided evenly between proteins, fats, and carbs. Now I say evenly based upon these percentages. So this almost looks more like a ketogenic diet simply because, and ketogenic is basically fat and or protein heavy diets, which are low on carbs. Because my carbs are at a lower percentage than my fats or equal to my proteins. Now, a true ketogenic would actually look something more like you typically want 150 carbs or less, so then you'd have to really bump up fat here. Too high. So I'm eating a ton of fat. If I want to substitute that in for proteins, it's, again, you get the idea. It's real easy to play around with these numbers to figure out where you want to get your sources from. But in the end, the key is that number on the left here. It tells you approximately how many grams you would need in a total day to hit what you want. So tying it all together, you start with the calories. So roughly, what is your goal? To maintain the weight, to lose a little bit of weight, some weight, a lot of weight, or vice versa. If you want to actually put on weight, go above this number right here. After you figure out your rough number, that's when you figure out, all right, how much of each should I be getting? And that's more a matter of personal preference, lifestyle factors. If you have a diet preference, so are you intolerant to certain foods in the vegetable kingdom, so you actually are steering away from veggies? Is it your, I'm blanking on the word. You can't eat bread because you have, oh, this is bad. Gluten. Oh, you know what? I'm leaving this in the video. One shot only. You actually have celiac disease, so you can't have gluten in your diet. Well, then you're clearly not having as many carbs or carbs from different sources. Are you on the carnivore diet, in which case this number right here is going to be almost zero. And I say almost because there are going to be some carbs in a lot of what you eat, regardless, even if they aren't dominant or showing. Um, so again, these percentages are mainly based upon lifestyle factors, personal food choices, what can you afford, and what you'd like to eat. And this is the part where I kind of really come in. If you're coming in for a nutritional consult, is we figure out, first your goals. What is your goals? To put on weight, to lose weight, to maintain weight, to improve performance at the gym or running or whatever, or you want to dip your toe in the water with a different lifestyle as far as what you like to eat. That's kind of where I come in and help whoever wants to talk to me about it. So we figure out, all right, what are you eating currently? What feels good? What doesn't feel good? What are some tips and tricks to get more or less in your life? If you're craving something, what can you do to mitigate that? How much should I drink? When should I eat? How should I eat? Why would a diet be for or against me? Should I do one? Not do one? All of those will be answered more or less in clinic if it's something that you guys want to actually discuss and talk about. But this is where I come in. We figure out, all right, carbs, fats, proteins, how to get them in my system, the sources you get them from. And then after that, after you figure out your base, that's when you're ready to move on to the next tier where you start figuring out, right, if you're eating relatively healthy, you shouldn't be really deficient on your micronutrients. And then it gets into the timing factors where, all right, now I've got these bases, I've got these steps, I'm getting good fuel into my system here. Now, when is the best time to fuel up? And again, usually I don't want to say it's a gray or a black and white area, but I would say 90% of the public, it is fairly black and white. There are some basic rules to follow and you should be fine. For different people, like weekend warriors or athletes or people really getting into sports and fitness, there might be one or two things to tweak depending upon your individual habits, goals, and expectations. But again, to wrap up this video in kind of a neat package, even though I tend to ramble quite a bit, figure out what you need for your goal. If I can get this off my screen here. And then figure out, now you know what you need for your goal, where is it going to be best to get my sources from? Then once you figure out where you should get them from overall from macros, that will help you in your shopping list where you think, all right, I'm trying this new thing where I'm cutting my carbs out a little bit, so a little bit less rice, a little bit less bread. Well, if you're trying to maintain weight, you can't just flat out cut it out. You need to replace it with something, which means you're trying to replace it with either a very high fiber complex carbohydrate, which doesn't have as big of an impact in your system, or you are using a protein or a fat. And that's where it just helps to have a rough number in your head where you need to be for you. Now, going into the future, the next video, like I said, I'm skipping micronutrients. It's just too big of a topic to cover neatly in a video like this. I'm probably going to actually postpone nutrition timing a little bit because I actually want to talk about glycemic impact and load. And this is kind of where that whole, 1 calorie doesn't equal another because they actually interact in our system differently, which is the same if you caught a little bit where it's like, hey, you're cutting out carbohydrates, Jake, and you said you should replace it with fat or protein. Why did you say complex, high fiber carbohydrate could almost be replacement? And that's going to be the purpose of this video, or this upcoming video, is talking about why calorie for calorie, not everything is created equal in your body. Now that video is probably going to be as long or longer than this one, simply because if I want to do justice to glycemic index and glycemic load, I also have to do a little bit of an introduction on inflammation and why it's not always what people think it is, why it's not just something, it's one of those, even if you can't see it, it still might be there, and how it's impacting your body and your life. So again, that video is actually going to be a little bit longer, so I apologize for that. Hopefully this video turns out a-okay. Like I said, I'm using Zoom. I'm trying different things here, and hopefully the screen sharing works really well. If you guys have any questions, or if I hit upon a tangent that I just tickled over briefly that you kind of want to cover more about, which I'm prone to do in these videos, just hit me up. You know, send me a message on Facebook, on Instagram, comment on this video, do whatever you like, however you want to reach me. I'd be more than happy to to cover it, because I should almost put up a disclaimer. I'm not held liable for any tangents I go on when I'm shooting these things. Because I really don't have a solid script. I don't really believe in solid scripts where it just, it's too inhuman. It doesn't, I've seen too many of those scripted videos. They're worse than those infomercials. But anyway, I'm really digressing. There should be the end of the screen share. I'll stop recording now. Thank you for listening to me ramble. I hope you learned a lot with this video, and I hope it really sparked your interest to get you guys thinking about your nutrition and nutritional journey, especially post-Turkey Day and coming up to Christmas with New Year's. And we all know how people's New Year's resolutions go. So keep these things in mind. I look forward to shooting the next video. Thanks for sticking around.